Before service this morning, I looked up how many times laughter occurs in the Bible, and it's not very often. And most of the time when it does occur, it occurs as laughing to scorn or mocking. But there is one story of Sarah. And Abraham is talking to God, and God says, "Where is your wife Sarah?" They asked him. "She is in a tent," he replied. Then his guest said, "I shall visit you again next year without fail, and your wife will then have a son." Sarah was listening at the entrance of the tent behind him. Now Abraham and Sarah were old, and Sarah had ceased to have her monthly periods. So Sarah laughed to herself, thinking, "Now that I am past the age of childbearing and my husband is an old man, is pleasure to come my way again?" But Yahweh asked Abraham, "Why did Sarah laugh and say, 'Am I really going to have a child now that I'm old?' Is anything too wonderful for Yahweh? At the same time next year I shall visit you again, and Sarah will have a son." "I did not laugh," said Sarah, lying because she was afraid. But he replied, "Oh yes, you did laugh." But the chapter later, she had the son, and Abraham was 100 years old when his son Isaac was born to him. Then Sarah said, "God has given me cause to laugh, and all of those who hear of it will laugh with me." So I dedicate this sermon to Sarah, who was the first one to try the ploy. "Oh no, I wasn't laughing at you, I was laughing with you." The one thing I enjoy about Unitarian Universalists is that they laugh on Sunday morning. Instead of somber piety, we open ourselves to the surprises of life. The mystery of life is a riddle, and we laugh when we solve a piece of it. We embrace the paradox with joy instead of fearfully defending our version of the truth. Lucy Maud Montgomery, author of the Anne of Green Gables books, wrote, "A good laugh is as good as a prayer sometimes." And in my office, I have a non sequitur cartoon taped to my computer that portrays God on a talk show with Jay Leno, saying, "The sense of humor is my greatest invention. The irony being that those who claim to believe in me most have the least of it." If there is a God, it is probably more like a joke than an essay. An essay can be explained, but the moment you try to explain a joke, it's lost. To appreciate a joke, you have to get it when it happens. And those who believe in God get it in a way that defies explanation. Explaining a theology will not give someone a sense of the holy any more than explaining a joke will give them a sense of humor. Sometimes humor is necessary to survive. Gandhi said, "If I had no sense of humor, I would have long ago committed suicide." But a joke can be a dangerous thing. And sometimes in our own congregations, we often take the pot shot at fundamentalism probably a bit too often. And we have to think about what is our motivation to belittle other people. The joke can be a dangerous thing. For example, do you know how every racist joke begins? Another way they start is to use the phrase, "This may not be politically correct, but..." Now that phrase I have found is usually followed by something morally reprehensible. One definition of humor is pain happening to someone else. Slipping on a banana, walking into a light pole, and humiliation is a form of pain. The practical joke and satire use ridicule as a means to an end. Sometimes it's used to humble those who are in power. Presidents of each party have had people who made careers imitating them. Nixon had Rich Little, Jerry Ford had Chevy Chase, Jimmy Carter had Dan Aykroyd. Dana Carvey has not been funny since George Herbert Walker Bush lost. Rush Limbaugh's Clinton impersonations fueled the Republican Revolution. George Bush had an entire show dedicated to him on Comedy Central until 9/11 made the joke not funny at all. Though books by Molly Ivins, Michael Moore, and Al Franken are selling well. I've often wondered how these comedians vote. Do they vote for their conscience or for their career? Ridicule is oppressive when it's used to keep people down. But the most powerful man in the world always seems to be an appropriate target. What is the purpose of humor? 17th century philosopher Thomas Hobbes wrote, "The passion of laughter is nothing else but sudden glory, arising from a sudden conception of some eminency in ourselves by comparison with the infirmity of others." Charles Gruner writes, "The two words, sudden and glory, make up the two elements necessary for any evoking of laughter. Why does the pie in the face of a pompous stuffed shirt make us laugh? We feel the difference between the victim and ourselves. He is deflated, defeated, sloppy mess, and we are not. This perception makes us feel glorified. But the perception of this glory must be sudden. The pie must splash into his visage as a surprise to us. After the surprise wears off and the glory is no longer sudden, suppose he sits around for several minutes with the pie all over himself. We might even start to feel sorry for the poor slob." I have noticed that in real life, a pie in the face is never funny. It's such an old joke that it is impossible to make it a sudden surprise, and the security guards always react with such vehemence that quickly it's interpreted as a security breach. And the victims are usually savvy enough not to be humiliated and usually come up with a quip like, chocolate. My wife, Gail, never finds food fights funny. Growing up black and poor, she comments that only white folks are rich enough to waste the food. In the context of world hunger, wasting pie is a tragedy. Any joke, when examined, loses its humor. But the moment you laugh, you're releasing inferiority to embrace superiority. And being able to laugh at yourselves shows that you are confident enough to admit you are not perfect. Many comedians try this technique, trying to get audiences to suddenly feel superior. And even politicians try this. Howard Dean has received public ridicule after his "I Have a Scream" speech. But he responded by appearing on David Letterman reading "Top 10 Ways I, Howard Dean, Can Turn Things Around." Among the suggestions were switch to decaf, fire the staffer who suggested we do this lousy top 10 list instead of actually campaigning. And number 1 was, oh, I don't know, maybe fewer crazy red-faced rants. Only time will tell whether the voters will be laughing at him or with him in the old Sarah ploy. Is all humor, at some level, a manifestation of ridicule? What about puns? I'm an incorrigible punner. Don't encourage me. Or I will inflict punishment upon you. Perhaps pontificating on humor makes me a pundit. When we ponder the meanings of words, the meaning of life is spun on the web of interdependence. In high school, my friends used to tease me because I told preacher jokes. You see, preachers are not allowed publicly to ridicule people because of ethnicity or sex, so they are reduced to puns. Puns do not ridicule others. Therefore, by the Hobbes definition, there's no chance for sudden glory. Therefore, by Hobbes' definition, puns are not humor, and I know a certain long-suffering minister's wife that would agree. But perhaps puns are ridiculing meaning itself. Serious people seek absolute meaning. When a school teacher scolds the children about what is right and wrong, you can be certain that the class clown will be offering a parody on the playground. George Santayana points to humor as a way to remove the mask of the world. He writes, "The world is a perpetual caricature of itself. At every moment, it is the mockery and contradiction of what it is pretending to be. But as it nevertheless intends all the time to be something different and highly dignified, at the next moment it corrects and checks and tries to cover up the absurd thing it was, so that a conventional world, a world of mass, is superimposed upon reality and passes in every sphere of human interest for the reality itself. Humor is the perception of this illusion." Puns are a way to break the rigidity of inflexible meaning. It is a way of connecting new connections. Humor is a recognition that there is another possibility. In the book Lighten Up, C.W. Metcalf and Roma Fellable note, the Latin root of humor is humor, which means fluid, like water. And the doctors in the audience will know the history of the body humors. Humor, then, is a set of survival skills that relieve tension, keeping us fluid and flexible instead of becoming rigid and breakable in the face of relentless change. The book Lighten Up refers to the work of a Harvard psychiatrist, George Valiant, who wrote a book called Adaptation to Life. Cancer patients to hostages and Holocaust survivors display three characteristics: altruism, humor, and support from the community. Altruism is a way of giving to others, removing yourself from the center of the universe. When you are the center of the universe, you are taking yourselves too seriously. Everything is either your fault or nothing is your fault. Because finding fault gives the illusion of control. it gives you an excuse for not giving. Why should you help someone who is to blame for their predicament? If it is their fault, then you don't have to care. If it's your fault, then you can never take a break. Now, your SUV and my minivan contribute to global warming, but it's not entirely our fault. We are not responsible for world hunger, even if we ate the last donut. People dedicated to social causes can be the most earnest and tedious people on the planet. This is true. I know. Take it from someone who tells people how to live their lives for a living. It's not our job to fix every problem in the world, and if we try, we'll die trying. Altruism is not just letting go of your time and treasure. It's taking your time and your treasure so lightly that it's easy to let it go. Humor is the ability to see the absurdity in the difficult situations in our lives. Community is a place where this humor can be shared. But each of us can be intentional about the humor in our lives. C.W. Metcalf was told to do the following practice by a Buddhist monk. And maybe we'd like to try it ourselves. Each morning, stand naked in front of a mirror and laugh. Repeat this until the laughter is real. He said he felt stupid and artificial for weeks, just pretending to laugh as he looked at himself in the mirror. But one mirror he laughed truly, and he laughed so hard that he cried. And then the crying reminded him of all the hurt in his life, and he started sobbing uncontrollably. And then he looked at his puffy eyes in the mirror again and started laughing. And his teacher explained that this phenomenon is the snake eating its tail. Laughter and sadness are not opposites, but they complement each other. People laugh at funerals and cry at weddings. We all feel embarrassment. We do not want others to think less of us. We feel that being serious is the only way to be taken seriously. But without humor, we do not give ourselves the opportunity to change. Humor is the way we recharge ourselves. It was a Unitarian Universalist, Norman Cousin, who wrote a book entitled Anatomy of an Illness, in which he described how he used humor in the healing process. He asked, if negative emotions produce negative chemical changes in the body, wouldn't the positive emotions produce positive chemical changes? Is it possible that love, hope, faith, and laughter, confidence, and the will to live have a therapeutic value? He was suffering from a crippling rheumatoid disease, and he stopped taking his pain medication, and he had comic films played in his room and found that 10 minutes of belly laughs would give him 2 hours of pain-free sleep. It seems that laughter produced endorphins, which reduced pain and helped in the healing process. Some people might perceive humor as just silliness and think that it has no place in a worship service. But you know that there is more to religion than fear of hell and reverence for tradition. We do unto others as we would have done unto us as we laugh at life. And laughter and joy are legitimate paths to spirituality. We should enjoy this life and look for humor even in the things that upset us. My dad often said, you have to laugh, otherwise you'd have to cry. And I think that if I was Sarah and 90 years old and finding out that I was pregnant, that would be a definite choice you would have to make. Not everything is a joke, but not everything is as serious as we are led to believe. Taking our lives less serious allows us to be more forgiving and less defensive. Some may say that UUs hold nothing sacred, but I disagree. We believe that life is sacred and too precious to spend complaining or moping or cowering in fear. Laughter is a pathway to joy. We do not force people to accept a predetermined creed. We let people decide for themselves if they are UU. In that spirit, I present some of these things that I heard on the website. I'll have to talk to the parents of those children. You might be a UU if a rabbi and a priest were present at your wedding. Someone calls you a witch and you thank them. You might be a UU if you secretly pray during a moment of silence. You might be a UU if you have decided it's best not to talk religion with your parents. Or you send your best thoughts to someone who is sick. You might be a UU if announcements are your favorite part of worship. You might be a UU if you've ever been in an argument over whether or not breast milk is vegan. You might be UU if you are unsure about the gender of God. You might be UU when you dress for a formal evening out and you wear a little black dress, pearls, and Birkenstocks with socks. And your wife thinks you look great. You might be a UU if you think the Holy Trinity is reduce, reuse, and recycle. By being able to laugh at ourselves, may we have the strength to keep working for a better and more joyful world. Amen.